I'm here as a senior in high school. Let me ask you a question. Let's have a show of hands. Who here enjoys thinking about the future? I see some several hands. Me too. But instead, my government wants me to go to the military. When I went back home this past break, my relative agreed to this sentiment. What he said was, all boys should go to the military because that's how you become a true Korean. I've always wondered why this was necessary. Actually, because of that, if the North Koreans are going to launch a first strike on Seoul, we cannot do anything about it. And this is what most of my Korean friends have as an opinion, I know. In my world studies class, I learned about nationalism and how that impacts the way government makes decisions. But what they never talk about is how government, or I'll say nationalism, affects us, the citizen, the consumer, and the individual. Ever since I was very young, I had to attend these Saturday schools in Korea. And in those schools, the textbook taught me about history and how we were imperialized by Japan. So basically, what we learned about is how we were imperialized by Japan. But the thing is, what to consider is the Japanese government pulled off Korea from their whitelist. Basically, for context, the whitelist is where reliable countries are exempted from a trade of a complex procedure when trading high-tech or electronic component. Basically, this is an indication of trust between countries. This means that Japan now considers Korea to be untrustworthy and a country that has an inability to put the past behind. In response to the trade war, basically, in response to the trade war, Korea has boycotted the Japanese products. And then clearly seen, the sales volume of Japanese brand decreased significantly. For example, the Japanese beer, the import of Japanese beer decreased 40% back in July. Moreover, the number of South Korean tourists visiting Japan decreased approximately of 70%. All of this brings us to today. For South Korea, it is vital that the Japan consistently provide materials for semiconductors because they're very crucial for South Korean tech manufacturers, such as Samsung. In fact, at some point, large businesses called chaebols control 77% of Korea's GDP and are responsible for 12% of overall Korea's employment. Guess what happens if Korea continues to boycott? A total decline in economical growth if South Korea doesn't step down. Although I think that it is important for us to value our heritage, I don't think we should put our livelihood at risk. The importance of this trade war is that it offers an ultimatum between our identity and the future. As I've said, I've only realized how much being Korean is not being Japanese. And now, Koreans are realizing that as well. But the difference between us is that because I found myself, my identity in an international setting, I can understand the validity of both perspectives. For my fellow countrymen, though, all I can say is that they're blinded by the love for their nation. So what's to blame? Korean media such as Naver only focuses on what the Japanese are doing to us and are framing the entire event through the perspective of the South Korean government. Some of them actually bothers to get to the bottom of the trade war. However, for the major, they just feel what is in front of them. For healthy democracy, though, we need a conversation. And how can we do that if there's only one opinion? Fine, you say. The mindless nationalism doesn't affect me because I'm not Korean, Japanese, or whatever. That's fair because I'm not living in Korea and I'm not necessarily affected by this either. What is important is that the nationalism is on the rise again. And this time, the very world we know, the one where the freedom of speech is guaranteed, that may soon disappear as well. I used to believe that the entertainment is an escape from politics, the medium where the spectrum of different views and ideas could be represented. Let's take a look at the company Blizzard. This company provided my childhood with games such as Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, and Overwatch. But recently, I have noticed a shift, both in their market decision and their public relation. And even this year, the Cantonese streamer got banned from voicing his support for Hong Kong. Why was this a problem? Well, that's because the Blizzard is an American video game developer, not a Chinese one. It's funny because Blizzard did issue an apology letter to China. On top of that, they've cleverly avoided any backlash by announcing the new game, Overwatch 2. While I'm not saying the CEO of Blizzard personally endorses this view, it's still a fact that they're actively censoring free speech. In the past, Chinese government were known to tightly monitor their companies, but in recent years, they're expanding this trend to the companies of other countries as well. It's not just Blizzard either. China is using its national power to influence the other forms of media. And we need to consider this, because what I'm concerned about is, just like the Naver and Korea, I saw what happened when there's only one-sided opinion. Just look at what happened to the manager of NBA, to the post-Hong Kong sentiments. But now, as the major influencers can be bought by the government, our freedom of speech is nearing to the point where it's censored completely. In our hyper-connected world, we are inevitably exposed to the media everywhere and every moment. People my age especially, they're vulnerable to video games and internet. I don't think I could ever be a true Korean, just like my relatives said, because I just haven't had the same experience they had. At the end of the day, there's not much we can do as consumers. As long as the company are only loyal to the bottom line, there's they will continue to become a mouthpiece for rampant nationalism. Unless the governments are willing to change the policies, not much can happen. Even when Blizzard action sparked outrage, the fans did try to boycott it, but what did we accomplish? When our targets are worth billions, our position means nothing. All we can do is to be able to recognize the political biases and expose ourselves to different perspectives. Thank you.